You don't know me, but if you're watching this, you and I have something in common. I love Path of Titans, and I bet you do too. Recently, a very passionate player in the community released a video in which he discussed his own suggestions for Path, some of which I found really appealing and engaging, and others felt like they were overly complicated or changing the identity of the game a little too much for me. Ultimately, his video was an inspiration for me to enter the discussion, and so I'd like to thank him for that. A link to his own video can be found in the description, but I'd like to offer the disclaimer that his approach in talking about these things is
Don't bother leaving them in my comic section. They will be deleted out of spite for you specifically as a person.
very different to
I don't
mine.
have the patience for room temperature IQ apes romping around my comment section.
Path of Titans is a game with a roadmap and a lot of things planned for it in the future. It has a direction it's going in, and so with any refinements I want to suggest, I've tried to be respectful of that direction in my position as an outsider looking in. Speaking of being an outsider, I haven't posted a ton of content yet, so nobody in the community really knows who I am or what I'm about. So let's fix that real quick. What kind of player am I? Well, I almost exclusively play on official servers, approximately 1,300 hours across PC, PS5, and Switch. I really enjoy PvP combat with the survival game element. In fact, I enjoy it so much that I run a UK-based PvP deathmatch server called Wildfangs. Come and join us. We're real small, but if you like to practice for officials and test out metas, go for it. I play on controller. I use an Apex 5 on the PC, and I use a PS5 Pro when I'm on the PS5. I really enjoy a focus on gamified natural animal behaviors. So, what I mean is, I really like being rewarded for doing something that an animal would do. I really enjoy the new quests that have you, like, push over a log to walk over it and stuff. That's right up my alley. I just really enjoy that a lot. Getting into game theory a little bit here, but I enjoy emergent gameplay and communication. So, games that develop their own little culture on the basis of limited communication methods. An example of this would be like, if you're familiar with Dark Souls, somebody spamming their shield at you a whole bunch means a couple of things in a couple of different situations, and I love that stuff. That's right up my alley, too. I enjoy engaging with the game's core mechanics, living the life cycle of a dinosaur. I find that really, really appealing and a really fun idea. Overall, I feel like I'm probably a dedicated but also pretty typical experienced player. I like things to be streamlined as opposed to just simple. I like things to feel like they're working with me. For whatever it's worth, my name is in the credits of a few titles that have gone gold, so I'm not speaking from the perspective of a total layman with respect to game development. With everything I've laid out here, I've considered the engine, existing infrastructure, existing assets, and what I considered likely implementation time, but I haven't exactly had the chance to shove my hands wrist deep in the guts of the game, so. Okay. Throughout anything I have to say here, this is the most important. I don't want Path of Titans to be a different game. I want it to be the best version of itself. This is my perspective on a few quality of life issues as they exist in the game right now. As I say, Path of Titans is a game with a roadmap and I know they're going somewhere, but I want to focus on what we have in front of us right now. Information overload, and sometimes underload. The UI in general can be very cluttered and sometimes hard to read. Huge, omnipresent icons and quest readouts take up massive amounts of screen real estate. A few status effects and a full spread of abilities takes up most of my dinosaur's backside. Cooldown timers are important, but as with so many things, having them appear only when relevant would make a really big difference. Status effects, stamina, and oxygen bars already do this, disappearing when irrelevant. When a player is at full health, the UI could even collapse into just food, water, and the sprint state indicator, which all work really well with being visible all the time. The active quest log can get huge if you're in a group, and it would reduce a lot of visual noise if it just faded out when the player's in combat. Another solution could be that a player can turn the active questing panel off or on at will by going into their quest tab. This wouldn't stop new quests from being acquired, it just turns off the panel and the noises. I don't like hearing the quest failing noise when I don't care about the quest. At this point, I have taught at least 6 individuals in depth how to play Path. New players are consistently confused by the same things in the UX design, and these things still sometimes trip me up, even as an experienced player. Chief among these is adding friends to group is very confusing, especially for new players. You open a few menus to get to the socials menu. Then you look at player list. You have to search for the player you want. Then you can add them. Newer players always go for the friends tab first and get confused as to why they can't do what they're looking to do with their friends from the friends menu. It needs to be explained that they have to go over to the other tab which opens up first, and that you have to search for the player's name manually. It doesn't make a lot of sense, it's not very intuitive. If an existing friend is on my server already, the option to add them to my group should be present within the friends menu. There are a few ways that this could be addressed. Number 1, the Friends tab puts online friends at the top of the list. Friends in your server appear at the very top and are partitioned separately. Invite to group and all friend management options can appear here. Whether this is viable depends on how those upcoming matchmaking changes work in future. Number 2, player list fetches friends of yours who are in the server, placing them at the top of the list in a partitioned area. Everyone else is just listed below. Searching for a player name manually works exactly the same as before. Wait, which arrow am I? Where are you? When traveling in a group, the size and lack of differentiation between the arrows representing yourself and your group mates can create problems with navigation and communication. Additionally, the fact that group member nameplate visibility is tied to the leader causes issues. This could be addressed by assigning group members different colors at random, colorizing their entire arrow, and forcing the client's arrow to always be on top. All group mates should be able to see the arrows of every other member on the map at all times, and nameplate visibility should be relative to each other, not just the leader. Being able to drop a temporary marker on the map for yourself, or drop one that your group members can see, is vital in a game like this. Marking collectibles for ourselves or each other, pointing out locations, or where something was last seen is invaluable. Fortnite is a great example of this. Pings time out or disappear if the tagged item is picked up or the location is walked through. Taking another clue from Fortnite, the addition of directional indicators for sound could immensely improve the experience for many, whether hunting or being hunted or whatever. This would be particularly advantageous for the hearing impaired or those playing with less than ideal sound systems. When you compare this with fading out a few other elements of the UI, thus making a cleaner experience, you can add this a little more seamlessly. I can't see! Camera depth fade. The lack of transparency occlusion with the player's cinematic camera is a massive problem, particularly for larger dinosaurs. Scenery objects often occlude the player's view in an unintended way during critical moments. This problem is most noticeable with trees and vegetation. The surface of the water also causes similar issues. Camera aim offset. When underwater or in the air, adjusting the camera angle to sit several degrees to the right, simulating an over-the-shoulder aim, would help aquatic and aerial creatures aim more reliably. Each aquatic creature in particular has a very different placement of where their bite and their head is actually located, and trying to figure out the different distance, especially as the creature grows, can be really frustrating. And it can be very hard to catch fish, even for an experienced player. Simply offsetting this a little bit helps with figuring out the aim. Route finding. Oh, good! Another cliff. All maps suffer from navigation issues. Riparia, least of the three, however, it still has some of the same old issues with poorly communicated verticality, dead ends, long backtracking, and single methods of egress in quite a few areas. The map is a focal point of the game and can be really beautiful. However, the experience of actually playing on the map can become very grating very quickly when taking some of the other game mechanics into account, which I'll get to in a moment. Verticality is not communicated at all on any of these maps. Being able to toggle the map into a different mode to show elevation would be invaluable, particularly for slow players with glass ankles who are trying to get somewhere specific. Alpha Critters. Critters are a fantastic addition to the game, and critters that fight back and protect their territory is similarly a great idea. They make great first hunts for smaller characters and provide necessary food on long journeys. They give a lot of life to Path of Titans. Alpha critters, too, have their role. However, in their current state, alpha critters do nothing but detract from the experience. They go in a straight line for a character's ankles regardless of their size or growth stage, but, being critters, they're often too small to be properly attacked themselves. They're immune to knockback, bleed, and bone break, all whilst dealing out more of that than any playable. They have immense health pools. An adult apex dinosaur with a poor turn rate has to either depend on a friend, run from a turtle, or precise move backwards and bite at the ground and hope they live. They will be taken to below half health, be bleeding, and bone broken by a weasel that isn't even the size of their foot. I am not ashamed to be direct here. This is poor design. As it is, nobody finds that fun. I love fighting bosses and coming across challenges. I know these took a lot of work to make even in their current form, but they need adjusting. They aren't fun yet. There are a few suggestions I can think of to help immediately address them without fundamental overhauls. 1. Adjust the spot they attack to be further out from the ankles on larger dinosaurs. 2. They need a vulnerability to knockback and fall damage. A lot of playables depend on those in order to compensate for turn rate. 3. They need to be even larger, to better represent their lethality and be easier to hit. They need to be more accessible for creatures of all sizes. How things feel. The typical experience. I play Path on my own a lot, but I also play it a lot with my favorite fella, and he and I like to get into what we affectionately describe as manageable trouble. We're both in our later 30s, and so we don't always have a lot of time to play the game together. Playing on my own can sometimes cause problems when the time has come to group up. Where are you? At the moment, players log in at their exact logout location. Allowing the player to choose between logging in at their last location or logging in at a random home cave could help to address some issues with grouping up. Traversing the map and using waystones is a part of the game. If a player wants to group up, but they last played their character on the other end of the map, it is respectful of the player's time to give them a chance at meeting up a little sooner. Sluggish starts. The login debuff is, I feel, a method of curbing revenge killing or hot swapping that inconveniences typical players and is now obsolete, having newer methods of prevention. A gentler method could be that a newly logged in player cannot attack for 1 minute, similar to the effects of leaving a home cave. This should spoil the plans of those looking to ambush players via logging on, without leaving typical players unnecessarily vulnerable. Currently, players are prevented from logging into other playables for 10 minutes if the character is located in the same or adjacent POI to where they were killed last. This can definitely work. However, it can also create problems with players who prefer to keep their characters in favorite locations, or maybe those who don't have that many dinosaurs yet. To solve this, instead of potentially locking the player out of the game for 10 minutes, a playable that's determined to be too near could trigger a dialogue. Either wait the 10 minutes, or spawn at a random location. Home cave debuffs. Another system that intends to curb certain behaviors can cause a lot of unnecessary issues, and that is the home cave debuff. Intended to stop players from camping the home caves, the mechanic can interfere with normal exploration and questing. A gentler solution for this could be to change what the home cave debuff affects. Instead of making the character weak and slow, they simply can't attack anymore. When combined with the immunity players already receive from leaving a home cave, this could help typical players continue to quest, explore the area, socialize, and escape from danger, but not to aggress. Diet tweaks. Yes, hello, cat. I know you're here. Many complicated systems have been suggested, but in the immediate, carrion and fish could work like salt rocks for hypercarnivores. They can eat it, but it will make them nauseous, making them slower and weaker for 2 minutes. Scavenger or fisher diets are immune to these effects for their preferred foods, of course, but get the same debuff from eating fresh meat. This could give some broader use to the carrion corpses around the map. Sometimes there just aren't any critters or players around, so desperate times could mean desperate measures. You can save yourself, but it'll make you sick. There are already existing assets for melons, lychees, and other types of plants. Eating these could confer bonuses to herbivores in the same way that different fish give beneficial status effects to fishers. These changes use already existing infrastructure and assets, but could serve to help things feel a little more varied. Herbivore rewards. I often play herbivores when I play Path on my own. Partly, this is because my favorite fella prefers the carnivore playables, and I like to leave my characters in the same place as his for speedy grouping up, something I addressed earlier. But partly, this is because herbivores are rarer in Path of Titans, and I like to be the change I want to see. Herbivores need a few more incentives to exist at the moment. Right now, herbivores don't benefit from quest-giving NPCs, and with the loss of the trophy system, they don't benefit from surviving interactions with predators either. One solution that could be implemented is to parallel the carnivore kill an herbivore quest by giving all herbivores a blue quest, Survive. If they survive outside of the home cave for 30 minutes, then they receive a moderate amount of growth and a couple hundred marks. This could help to offset the lack of quest givers for them and the lack of reward for surviving conflicts. Quest loop. I might be an outlier in that I enjoy some elements of the questing system. I can have an affinity for little repetitive tasks. It can be very chill exploring an environment as a dinosaur and finding shells and flowers and what have you, but I do agree that Path feels overly dependent on that. That's being worked on, and I do like a lot of the newer quests that involve interacting with the world in different ways. In the future, it would be fantastic to see quests that involve interacting with each other. This is very theoretical and a far-off idea, but I love the concept of ceratopsians getting quests involving locking horns with another ceratopsian to win a button mash minigame for marks and skins or emotes or whatever. If it's impossible to sync that up with another player, then I know AI dinosaurs are on the way eventually, and that could be a great quest to do. I love the idea of introducing quests that only dinosaurs in young growth stages can do, or bonuses only they can give, or a reincarnation mechanic that allows a player to reset their dinosaur in exchange for a small but permanent stat bonus of their choice. There's so much that this game can do in the future, but in the present, I think it just needs a little refinement on what it's already got going on to help the experience feel smoother for everyone. There are other issues and things that I would like to mention at some point. Maybe I could do another video talking about them. I would like to address some of the specific mechanics that were brought up in that other video discussing these things, but I think this is enough for now. I just wanted to be part of the conversation. And after all, with a game in early access like Path of Titans is, that's the point. So, I will need to think of a better way to end this video. Bye-bye.